When it went off, Peter had run to his mother's room to lead her outside by the hand to see the surprise. The trap lay on its side at the bottom of a freshly scraped crater at least 5 feet across. Inside was a baby rabbit, dead. There wasn't a single mark on its little body, but the cage was scratched and dented, and the ground all around clawed to rubble. Coyotes, his father had said, joining them. They must have scared it to death trying to get in. And none of us even woke up. Peter's mother had opened the trap and lifted out the lifeless form. She held it to her cheek. They were just tulips, only a few tulips. Peter found the carrot, one end nibbled off, and threw it as far away as he could. Then his mother had placed the rabbit's body in his cupped palms and gone off to get a shovel. With a single finger, Peter had traced its ears, unfurling like ferns from its face, and its paws, miraculously tiny, and the soft fur of its neck slick with his mother's tears. When she had returned, his mother had touched his face, which burned with shame. "It's okay, you didn't know." But it wasn't okay. For a long time afterward, when Peter closed his eyes, he'd see coyotes, their claws raking dirt, their jaws snapping. He saw himself where he should have been, keeping watch in the garden that night. Over and over, he saw himself doing what he should have, rising from his sleeping bag, finding a rock, and hurling it. He saw the coyotes fleeing back into the darkness, and he saw himself opening the trap to set the rabbit free. And with that memory, the anxiety snake struck so hard that it stunned Peter's breath out of him. He hadn't been where he should have been that night the coyotes killed the rabbit, and he wasn't where he should be right now. He gasped to fill his lungs, and he sat bolt upright. He tore the photo in half and then in half again, and he pitched it in pieces under his bed. Leaving Pax hadn't been the right thing to do, so he jumped to his feet. He had already lost a lot of time. He fished some cargos and a long-sleeved camouflage t-shirt and a fleece sweatshirt from his suitcase, and then an extra set of underwear and socks. He stuffed everything to his backpack except the sweatshirt, which he tied around his waist. Jackknife in his jeans pocket, wallet. He debated for a minute between his hiking boots and his sneakers, and he decided on the boots, although he didn't put them on. He looked around the room, hoping to find a flashlight or anything resembling camping equipment. The room had been his father's when he had been a boy, but aside from a few books on a shelf, it was clear that his grandfather had cleaned all the things out. The cookie tin had seemed to surprise him, an oversight. Peter bumped his fingers over the spines of the books. An atlas. He pulled it down, amazed at his luck, and he flipped through it until he came to the map that showed the route he and his father had traveled. "You'll only be 300 miles away." His father had tried to bridge the silence of the long drive a couple of times. "If I get a day off, I'll come." Peter had known that that would never happen. They didn't give days off in war. Besides, it wasn't his father he was already missing. And then he saw something he hadn't realized. The highway snaked around a long range of foothills, and if he cut straight across those instead of following the highway, he could save a lot of time, plus reduce the risk of being caught. He started to rip out the page, and then he realized he couldn't leave such an obvious clue. Instead, he studied the map for a long moment and then replaced the atlas on the shelf. 300 miles. It looked like he could shave off 100 of them by taking the shortcut, so say around 200. If he could walk at least 30 miles a day, he could make it there in a week or less. They had left Pax at the head of an access road that led to the ruins of an old rope mill. Peter had insisted on this road because hardly anyone ever used it. Pax didn't know about traffic, and because there were woods and fields all around, he would go back and find him there, waiting, in 7 days. He wouldn't let himself think about what might happen to a tame fox in those 7 days. No, Pax would be waiting at the side of the road right where they had left him. He'd be hungry for sure and probably scared, but he would be okay. Peter would take him home, and they would stay there. Just let someone try to make him leave this time. That was the right thing to do. He and Pax, inseparable. He glanced around the room again, resisting the urge to just run. He couldn't afford to miss anything. The bed. He pulled the blankets off, rumpled the sheets, and punched the pillow a little bit to make it look like it was slept on. From his suitcase, he took out the picture of his mother he had kept on the bureau, the one taken on her last birthday, holding up the kite that Peter had made for her, and smiling as if she had never had a better present in her life, and he slid it into his backpack. Next, he pulled out the things of hers that he had kept hidden in his bottom drawer at home. Her gardening gloves, still smudged with the last soil she had ever lifted, a box of her favorite tea, which had long ago lost its peppermint scent, the thick candy cane striped knee socks that she wore in winter. He touched them all, wishing he could take everything back home where it belonged, and then chose the smallest of the items, a gold bracelet with an enameled phoenix charm that she had worn every day, and tucked it into the middle of his backpack with the photo. Peter surveyed the room one last time. He eyed his baseball and his glove and then crossed to the bureau and stuffed them in his backpack. They didn't weigh much, and he wanted them for when he was back home. Besides, he just felt better when he had them. Then he eased the door open and he crept to the kitchen. He set the backpack on the oak table, and in the dim light from above the stove, he began to pack supplies: a box of raisins, a sleeve of crackers, and a half-empty jar of peanut butter. Pax would come out of his hiding spot for peanut butter. From the refrigerator, he took a bunch of string cheese and 2 oranges. He filled the thermos with water, and he hunted through the drawers until he found matches, which he wrapped in tinfoil. Under the sink, he scored 2 lucky finds, a roll of duct tape and a box of heavy-duty garbage bags. A tarp would have been better, but he took 2 bags with gratitude, and he zipped the pack. Finally, he tore a sheet of paper from the pad beside the phone, and he began a note: "Dear Grandfather." Peter looked at the words for a minute, as if they were a foreign language, and then he crumpled up the paper and he started a new note. "I left early. Wanted to get a good start on school. See you tonight." He stared at that page for a while, too, wondering if it sounded as guilty as he felt. At last, he added, "Thanks for everything, Peter." He placed the note under the salt shaker and he slipped out. On the brick walk, he shrugged on his sweatshirt and crouched to lace his boots. He straightened up and shouldered his backpack, and then he took a moment to look around. The house behind him looked smaller than it had when he had arrived, as if it were already receding into the past. Across the street, clouds scudded along the horizon, and a half moon suddenly emerged, brightening the road ahead. So that is the end of chapter 2. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sorry it was in 3 separate videos. I'll try better next time.